Auth66. Today I have a weird topic. It's something I've had a few conversations about with people in the past, and I think it's completely subjective. So this is not me standing on a soapbox saying, don't do this. But today I want to talk about like sound bites and like gotcha posts. I think it's wonderful to state publicly, what you stand for. And I think it's important to have a set of values and core values specifically that you live by. But there is a very different thing between saying, this is what I believe, this is how I live my life. And there's a wildly different thing where we then bring into, this is how you should. This is what's right. This is what you do, right? I think, we could point to wars, we could point to political elections, we could point to a lot of things where sound bites and gotchas are the things that carry the day, and they're just like these small snippets. Instead of the full idea, instead of the completed thought, the completed sentence. And I find that it's really easy to consume that. And I say consume because it's what happens. But it doesn't mean that it actually furthers the conversation. In fact, I think it actually creates more division and creates this kind of clarity, but it's like a negative clarity. It's like saying, if you believe that sentence, then we cannot be friends, we cannot see eye to eye, we cannot do anything together. And I think that's almost sensationalist. And it would like turn somebody completely away from you, or completely away. If you're that strong about something that could be not necessarily controversial, but that could be a different decision that somebody else might make. I don't think that makes that person wrong. I think we all just have our own free will and we can make our decisions. And then that's kind of like the beauty of things. Standardization is great, but so is individualization. And I think somewhere between the two is something beautiful. But I worry that sometimes, in the social media highlight era, we've come to this place where it's like about winning attention. And I mean, that is the point of social media, whether it's to win our attention as the viewer for the things that we're scrolling by, or we're the creator, we're trying to capture the attention of the people around us. I just feel like there's more ways to do it other than making a bold claim. Like we talk about clickbait before. Grow your hair 4 times faster might be the thing that pops by, and if that's something you want, you would like look into it, and maybe it's really not guaranteed every single time, and you figure it out, but you feel deceived. I think playing that game is a race to the bottom, because eventually we're all just going to be deceived and we're going to trust nothing. And I don't even know if we're not necessarily there yet, because there's a lot of people that just don't believe anything they see online anymore. And for me, I think our world is divided enough. I think we have enough reasons to, be distrustful or to question. And I think I would just love if there was a way we could get to, and maybe it's kumbaya of me, I don't know. I would love if we can get to a place where we could be doing that with more intention, more care, and not in spite of ourselves, but more for the good of humanity. Like, instead of looking for all the ways we don't agree, what are the areas that we do agree on? And maybe start from there, because if you start from a place of accord, everything else is infinitely easier after. One of the things I like to do when I'm getting to know somebody is to just find out things that we might have in common. Because if I'm going to be frustrated with somebody later, it's much harder to just, light the whole thing on fire, so to speak, when we have some commonality, right? I like to ask a lot of questions. And even if somebody shares an opinion or has a thought that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, I'm still curious. I want to understand what informed that. As a Canadian, I'll use the example of healthcare. And I'm not going to weigh in one way or the other. But I was curious because I had somebody who I knew who was talking about the healthcare system in Canada. They were from the US, and so they had a lot of opinions about how it was or how it should be. without ever having experienced it. So like I was curious about where they were getting their information, and it turns out it was, something online, and I was like, well, can I share, my experience of what happened? And it doesn't mean that what you're saying or what you read isn't true, maybe somewhere in part of Canada, but let me tell you about my experience. And then the conversation shifted to commentary on my experience and what was good about that and what maybe they could see as being an issue. And instead of then us going, no, you're right, you're wrong, there wasn't a conversation to win about whose idea had merit. It was just a conversation of ideas. I think sometimes, whether it be winning or deciding or being right, there, this whole gotcha soundbite thing, posts that are controversial, they're all with this design to be like, this is it. This is the thing that we stand on. And I mean, I think like I said before, there's a great deal of things that we could stand on. I just don't know if everything needs to be as controversial as people make it to be. Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. I still believe in Santa Claus. So I think it's just based on your perspective. And for me, though I talk a lot, and I talked about that yesterday, I try very hard to see from other people's perspectives, even when they're different than mine. Because what I learn when I'm doing that, I have found so valuable. So I guess maybe that's, part of the message for today is if somebody disagrees with you, instead of being, angry or put off or offended, let's be curious. Let's all ask more questions. Let's try to figure out where it comes from. Sometimes wrong opinions are based from trauma. And I say wrong in quotations, but what we might deem as wrong are based in trauma. And if you got to know somebody and how they felt about something or what led them to their decision, it might make you understand them a little bit more too. Or maybe you could bridge a gap. It just depends on what's going on. But I mean, as always, I'm going to preach more kindness. I mean, I probably have said that multiple times in my Auth66, but I don't think it'll be my last. So that's what I'll wish for you heading into this weekend. Happy Friday.